Here, in addition to the PT cycle, I want to provide again these steps of the missional change process. These were in chapter 2 of Starting Missional Churches. They provide a way for you to see, are we moving through the necessary awareness and conversation so that we can move through an adaptive challenge? So awareness becomes the first thing. When you become aware that some area of your church's life, with neighbors, with generations, dealing with race, dealing with the differences in the room, that awareness starts to arise, you start hearing about it, you sense it yourself, you test it, conversations continue to test it, to see, what is it that we're starting to perceive? What is God prodding us with? And that awareness then slowly moves from that kind of ambiguous, generic theme to an understanding. Here's what we really just do not know what we're doing. Here's where everything that we're doing fails. This is where we're finding out something about our understandings of church and gospel just is not jiving. And so the understanding is where you start getting a little bit more clarity around what is the theme, what is the challenge. And so let's say it has to do with young adults in the church or youth in the church. Then the next step then becomes evaluation. It's where you can say more, if we're going to be the kind of church that we think God's calling us to be in this context, with these people, with these porous borders, with the gifts in the room, with the challenges in the room, here's what really isn't quite working. That if we look at the context, we look at the biblical text, we look at ourselves and we hear stories, then our evaluation is we're missing the mark here. We've got some hard work to do, and we need to figure out some new ways of life together, life with neighbors. And that's then what leads to experiments. We're going to try X. We're going to do some dinners in seniors' homes and get stories from them. We're going to do something else in the way that we arrange segmenting age groups or pulling age groups together. As you saw in video of the Oakland church, how we'd experimented our way toward different ways of cross-generational life in a worship service, or how the church in El Paso started experimenting its way as it saw something that they knew God was pushing them on, and they had to figure out as they went, step at a time. There was no road toward some way of new life. And those are the experiments. And sometimes then an experiment becomes an obvious way that the Spirit of God is engaging you, and a commitment simply means that it's a longer experiment. It still may only be 6 months or a year, maybe longer. And so the commitment means that we're actually engaging this in a longer pattern. Another way to look at this, though, is to realize this is not a straight stair step, that it's much more like zigzagging in a sailboat, tacking across a lake. And it's the same steps there, but be aware that this is not a straight line. It's not the same way we understand tactics in a strategic plan. And as you do it again, we're going to constantly have to come back to the leadership triad. No step can leave out any element of the triad. Every step is interpretive and relational and implemental. And so as a leader, you need to keep checking yourself on this. Am I ignoring some relationships? Am I missing some pain? Am I missing some love, some synergism? Am I missing something that would make a team work better? And what's going on in my own relationships? Am I doing blame or avoidance in the midst of all of this? And implemental work. Are these really the best ways to lay out some particular steps? Are there other things we should be trying? Who here might have some other ideas? And so the triad of leadership is a constant lens as you work through the steps of adaptive challenges.